You're watching All 24 News World News program live from Algiers, and up next are tonight's top stories. President Tebboune meets the head of Russia's employers organization as Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf discusses key Security Council issues with Sergei Lavrov. Meanwhile, ahead of the gas exporting countries forum, Algeria holds talks to boost energy cooperation. Coming up next, Polisario France calls a new European-Moroccan partnership illegal and rejects Morocco's influence over the Sahrawi people. Also in our news, Gaza sees shocking scenes as bodies of detainees are buried, while the UN agency reports 95% suffer from famine. And later on in Sudan, the army repels an attack on Khartoum's airport, while a child starvation crisis deepens in Al Fasher. 4 reports up next. Welcome back to the program. First off in our news tonight, President Abdelmadjid Tebboune on Wednesday received Alexei Rypik, head of Russia's Business Russia organization, to discuss economic cooperation. The meeting was attended by senior Algerian officials, including Presidential Office Director Boualem, Investment Agency Chief Omar Kesh, and Economic Renewal Council Head Kamal Moula.
As a representative of Russian companies, I met with the President of the Republic. We support Algerian development and investment at the level of Algerian companies, as well as strengthening Algerian exports in addition to exports to African countries. We also discussed several topics of common interest.
President Abdelmadjid Tebboune on Wednesday received Belarusian Foreign Minister Maxim Ryazhenkov and his delegation to discuss bilateral cooperation. The meeting was attended by Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf, Presidential Office Director Boualem, and Diplomatic Affairs Advisor Ammar Habba.
I would like to express my sincere gratitude to His Excellency, the President of the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria, and to the Algerian people for their warm hospitality. We discussed with His Excellency several key areas of future cooperation and agreed on steps to implement joint programs in agricultural automation, food security, industry, culture, and education. All these initiatives will be outlined in a joint roadmap defining the main direction of our partnership. The most important step ahead is the upcoming meeting between the two heads of state, which we are preparing to hold soon. This meeting will be crucial for strengthening our legal, political, and economic relations. The Belarusian delegation will continue working with Algerian ministries on implementing joint projects. Thank you once again for the warm welcome. We truly admire Algeria.
Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf received his Belarusian counterpart Maxim Ryazhenkov, who is on an official visit to Algeria. The two ministers held talks to review 30 years of Algerian-Belarusian relations and agreed to build on the outcomes of the first joint committee session held last April to further strengthen cooperation. They also discussed regional and international developments, emphasizing continued coordination and mutual support in global forums. The Algerian Economic Renewal Council reaffirmed its commitment to strengthening economic cooperation with Hungary to build a mutually beneficial partnership. Speaking at the Algerian-Hungarian Business Forum in Algiers, Council Secretary General Ali Oumlel said the event offers a key platform for business leaders from both countries to exchange ideas and explore investment opportunities.
The Algerian-Hungarian Business Forum is an opportunity for Algerian economic operators to meet with their Hungarian counterparts and an opportunity for us to further understand the investment climate and the investment opportunities offered by Algeria. Algeria has been keen to provide a stimulating investment climate, thanks to numerous legal and regulatory reforms aimed at facilitating partnerships and supporting foreign investors. Today's meeting allows for the implementation of projects based on win-win principle between the various economic operators of both countries.
In the energy sector in Doha, Minister of Hydrocarbons and Mines Mohammed Arqab held a series of meetings on the sidelines of the 27th Gas Exporting Countries Forum. He discussed global gas market trends and ways to strengthen the forum's role with Secretary General Mohammed Hamel, highlighting the importance of Algeria's Gas Research Institute. Arqab also met with Iran's Petroleum Minister Mohsen Paknejad, Qatar's Energy Minister Saad bin Shrid al-Ka'bi, and Nigeria's Gas Minister Akbar Akpo to boost energy cooperation and review key projects, including the Trans-Saharan Gas Pipeline. In talks with Libya's Oil Minister Khalifa Rajab Abd al-Sadiq, he explored joint investment and Sonatrach's activities in Libya, reaffirming Algeria's commitment to regional energy partnerships and market stability. Sonatrach CEO announced plans to expand the group's international presence by exploring new partnership opportunities through its subsidiaries. Speaking at the launch of workshops on global expansion, he said the initiative will involve Sonatrach's drilling, wells, and construction branches, aiming to strengthen cooperation, especially with African partners.
These days, or rather these workshops, are being held to study the best strategies that Sonatrach should adopt to extend its presence worldwide, particularly in Africa, where there are very promising opportunities for Sonatrach's subsidiaries across various specializations. These include drilling companies, well services companies, construction and infrastructure firms, and especially the seismic surveying company in Agua. The workshops will produce a set of recommendations that will be taken into consideration to determine the most effective approach for Sonatrach's global expansion. This will broaden the company's activities and bring benefits not only to Sonatrach itself, but also to other countries, particularly African nations, seeking Sonatrach's support and expertise.
Algeria's ambassador to Chad, Faisal Jouti, said the new Algiers and N'Djamena air route will boost African connectivity and reinforce Algeria's strategic position. Speaking after Air Algeria's first direct flight landed in N'Djamena, he described the route as a concrete step toward deeper bilateral ties and stronger continental economic integration.
We can only express our gratitude in this regard for the high decree of Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, President of the Republic, for making Chad a central priority of Algeria. The Chadian leadership has considered this a token of friendship that embodies the aspirations of the two brotherly nations. It is also a cornerstone for strengthening economic integration and an effective means of expanding South-South cooperation, President Abdelmajid Tebboune affirmed in his speech at the Intra-African Trade Fair 2025 in Algiers, our country's commitment to supporting the path of development in Africa and to strengthening the economic sovereignty of our nations.
Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense and Chief of Staff of the People's National Army General Said Chingriha continued his official visit to South Korea with tours of leading defense and space industry firms. He visited Sonatrach Initiative, where he reviewed the company's expertise in satellite systems and AI-based space imaging, and discussed prospects for cooperation in training, technology exchange, and industrial partnerships. Chingriha also toured Hanwha Aerospace Headquarters, commending its advanced equipment and skilled workforce. Korean officials in turn expressed interest in strengthening strategic cooperation with Algeria, the Defense Ministry said. Switching focus to a different news story now. Sahrawi Foreign Minister Mohammed Yaslam Baysat said the Polisario Front's proposal offers a comprehensive and democratic path toward decolonization and self-determination. Speaking at a press conference in Algiers, he stressed that the plan seeks a mutually acceptable political solution, ensuring the Sahrawi people's right to choose their future freely. He reaffirmed the Polisario Front's support for national independence, while emphasizing that no option will be imposed on the Sahrawi people.
The Sahrawi proposal includes new and important features and characteristics. It comes as a voluntary and good faith response from the Sahrawi side to the repeated appeals made by the UN Security Council to both parties over the past several years, in which the Council has consistently called on them to broaden and develop their proposals. Furthermore, the Sahrawi proposal is fully consistent with the principles and norms of international law, which cannot be disregarded, particularly those related to conflict resolution as enshrined in the Charter and resolutions of the United Nations, as well as in the binding decisions of international courts. This proposal represents a sincere, noble and friendly step from the Sahrawi people toward their Moroccan neighbors. It is a genuine, outstretched hand aimed at achieving a comprehensive, lasting and just solution, one that we hope will be met with good faith. The Sahrawi proposal is inclusive and democratic, guided by the available options within the framework of decolonization and the exercise of the right to self-determination.
Baysat reaffirmed the Sahrawi people's unwavering commitment to self-determination, rejecting Morocco's attempts to impose any solution on them.
The lessons learned from the conflict experiences all confirm that true peace cannot be imposed by force. Real peace is the one that addresses the root causes of conflicts to prevent their recurrence. The new Sahrawi proposal represents yet another step taken by the Sahrawi people toward their Moroccan brothers, who unfortunately have remained stagnant for 16 years since presenting their own proposal in 2007. If the other party insists on maintaining its proposal, it should be presented as one among several options from which the Sahrawi people can freely choose. However, any attempt to impose a single option on the Sahrawi people is completely and categorically rejected. It is evident to all that the question of Western Sahara, among other aspects, concerns the refusal to allow any attempt to alter the borders inherited at independence by force, an act that threatens peace and security in the region and poses a direct danger to the stability of neighboring states and to all African nations. Any illegal and undemocratic alteration of borders is, in a sense, a declaration of the birth of new wars and conflicts across our African continent.
On a similar note, Sahrawi Foreign Minister Islam Baysat condemned the new partnership agreement between the European Union and Morocco for including resources from the occupied Sahrawi territories. Speaking at a press conference in Algiers, he said the deal constitutes a grave violation of international law and urged EU member states to respect the rulings of the European Court of Justice.
The Sahrawi side expressed deep astonishment at the step taken by the European Commission and its disregard for the rulings of the European Court of Justice. We are in direct contact with the European countries and institutions to avoid a legal confrontation. We hope that Europe will apply its own laws sincerely and seriously. Europe and its people are known for their principles and values, and the supremacy of the law is one of the fundamental foundations of the European Union. The Commission cannot simply ignore European law as if nothing had happened. Such an act is dangerous and must be addressed. We are in contact with several European parties regarding this matter.
And in the Gaza file tonight, Palestinians continue to struggle to identify martyrs returned by the Zionist entity, as many bodies show signs of torture and severe decomposition. Rescue efforts in Gaza remain hampered by destroyed infrastructure, rubble, and a lack of equipment. Usama Ayadi has more details in this report.
As the prisoner exchange between the Zionist entity and Hamas continues as part of the U.S.-brokered ceasefire agreement, Palestinian families of the victims still live the sorrow of the genocide. The bodies handed over by the occupation showed once again its brutality. The dead bodies appeared to be unrecognizable due to the cruel torture, aggression, and the harsh conditions imposed during imprisonment.
My sister's son. Every day I go with her to try to identify the body. But unfortunately, there are no features. No features at all. Nothing to indicate it's her son.
According to a statement from Gaza's government media office, the bodies of 54 Palestinian martyrs previously detained by the occupation have now been laid to rest in collective burials due to the lack of graveyards and the inability to properly bid farewell to the martyred victims.
Now they're taking them to pray over them and bury them. Why, God? If there were a testing, we'd know where her son is, yes or no? You'd know whether the one you're burying is really her son or not.
Reports have also raised questions over the inhumane conditions in which the Zionist occupiers returned the bodies. Director of the government media office stated that the initial scenes of the bodies were shocking and terrifying, indicating signs of decomposition, clear traces of torture, and possible mutilation.
The signs of torture and brutal treatment on the body did not allow us to tell whether it was him or not. Our message and our demands to the world are to provide us with a means by which we can determine whether this person belongs to us or to someone else. The resources are weak. I believe they are non-existent.
Compounding the tragedy, the Gaza municipality faces huge difficulties in the recovery and identification efforts. Infrastructure devastated by the Zionist onslaught and the lack of necessary equipment is severely hindering civil defense and medical teams. The municipality appealed for immediate international assistance to provide essential resources to manage this humanitarian crisis. The return of the bodies reopened deep wounds for many families, some of whom have waited years for confirmation of their loved ones' fates. The situation highlights a critical and often overlooked aspect of the war, emphasizing the urgent need for a transparent and humane protocol regarding the handling of the deceased and the bodies of the victims.
The UN Relief and Works Agency UNRWA warned that around 95% of Palestinians in Gaza remain affected by the Zionist starvation policy. UNRWA spokesperson Adnan Abu Hasna said signs of hunger persist across the besieged Strip, stressing that temporary openings of crossings are insufficient. He added that 6,000 aid trucks, enough to supply Gaza for 3 months, remain blocked by Zionist authorities.
Around 95% of Palestinians are still suffering from varying degrees of famine, and it is too early to speak of any real improvement in addressing the catastrophic humanitarian crisis. Signs of hunger are still widespread in different areas of the Gaza Strip, and this phenomenon will not end simply by opening the crossings for a few days and allowing hundreds of trucks to enter. We have 6,000 trucks carrying food supplies sufficient for the people of Gaza for 3 months, in addition to trucks loaded with tents and shelter materials, but Israel has refused to allow them to enter so far.
Still with the Middle East development, southern Lebanon bears the scars of a war that has yet to end in the eyes of its people. Nearly a year after the ceasefire, widespread destruction, displacement, and continued Israeli occupation strikes have left entire communities unable to rebuild or return home. More on this story with Mariam Zian.
These are the traces of what could amount to war crimes in villages across southern Lebanon. The deliberate and large-scale destruction of entire neighborhoods by the Israeli occupation still prevents tens of thousands of people from returning to the south, despite the truce that was meant to bring calm to Lebanon's border with occupied Palestine.
Whatever house was still standing or land was still in good shape, they razed. They pulled the water pumps out from the ground and destroyed them. All the irrigation I had in the ground is broken. I have nothing, no irrigation, nothing. So we have to stay here in Tyre. If it wasn't for that, we would have returned. The house is gone.
Repeated strikes have made reconstruction extremely difficult, effectively holding southern Lebanon hostage and preventing more than 60,000 residents from rebuilding their communities. Reports say that over 300 people, including civilians, have been killed since the ceasefire was reached in November last year.
This war was the fiercest and most violent war that has come our way. We've had several wars, honestly. I saw the wars of 1993, 1996, and 2006, and this war. So we've lived through war and gotten used to it. But this was really the fiercest war we went through.
Persistent displacement is just one sign hostilities never concluded. Idaba pointed to a recent strike in the town of Bint Jbayl that killed children. Israeli occupation's warnings to stay away from southern villages and the daily buzz of Zionist drones overhead.
The war never ended for it to come back. We're still living in a war. You're still living in the war. The war is not over yet. The war will end when Israel leaves Lebanon, when it totally leaves Lebanon and goes away. That's how the war would end.
While rockets are no longer launched from Lebanon, the Israeli occupation continues to strike Lebanese territory almost daily, amid calls for investigations and accountability for all violations of international law, in what appears to be pressure on the Lebanese government to disarm Hezbollah.
All the way to Sudan now. The Sudanese army said it repelled a violent drone attack by the Rapid Support Forces on Khartoum International Airport and its power station for the second day in a row. Military sources told All24 News that the assault caused no casualties or major damage. Army Chief and Head of the Sovereignty Council, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, vowed to confront all threats to Sudan's security, praising the unity of the Sudanese people with their armed forces during his visit to the airport.
We in the armed forces, our role is certainly to provide protection and security for our people in Sudan. We are working toward that, and we will achieve it soon. No one will be able to threaten this blessed land or threaten Sudan, because we are determined to eliminate this rebellion. We are resolved that we must wipe out this rebellion. We will not allow any opportunity for it to return. We tell the aggressors that Sudan is a land of glory, and we, as Sudanese, will restore that glory. Greetings to all our people everywhere. We assure them that this brutal gang has not taken anything from you, and the Sudanese people, together with their soldiers, who are now at their posts, are capable of striking back thousands of times until their families are reassured.
Local sources in Al-Fashar, capital of North Darfur, reported that more than 239 children have died of starvation under the siege imposed by the Rapid Support Forces for over a year and a half. The city's resistance committees said the worsening humanitarian crisis has deepened civilian suffering and condemned the international community's silence, urging urgent action to stop what they described as genocide against the region's population. The humanitarian situation in Sudan continues to deteriorate, with thousands forced to flee renewed fighting across Darfur and Kordofan, amid the United Nations warning that civilians are paying the highest price as violence surges. Marwa has the story.
Sudan's war is driving thousands from their homes once again. From Darfur to Kordofan, the violence is spreading and the humanitarian toll is deepening by the day. More than 3,000 people have fled their homes in North Darfur and around 1,200 others in West Darfur and South Kordofan as fighting intensifies across several fronts. That's according to the UN's Humanitarian Office, which cites new figures from the International Organization for Migration. In just 1 week, over 3,000 people were forced to flee in North Darfur alone, half from the besieged state capital Al-Fashar and the rest from the village of Abu Gamra. Tensions are also rising in Kordofan. On October 18th, about 1,000 residents fled the town of Lagawa in West Kordofan as clashes escalated. A day earlier, an airstrike on the village of Mazroub in North Kordofan killed at least 17 people and forced more than 200 others to flee. Further south in South Kordofan, the situation is just as dire. Towns like Diling and Kadugli remain under siege, supply routes are blocked, and essential goods are running out. The UN warns that civilians continue to bear the brunt of this relentless violence, urging an immediate ceasefire, protection for the population, and an unrestricted humanitarian access to those in need.
Looking Eastern Europe, 6 people, including 2 children, were killed and several others injured in Russian missile and drone strikes across Ukraine. Kyiv's military chief said debris from the attacks sparked fires in half of the city's districts. Officials added that the overnight assault began with ballistic missiles followed by waves of drones. The Russian Foreign Ministry said preparations are underway for the upcoming summit between Presidents Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, with both sides focusing on key agenda issues. Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov noted there are no major obstacles to holding the meeting, though the process remains complex. He warned against efforts to undermine potential agreements and denied any recent document exchange on Ukraine. The Kremlin, for its part, stressed the need for thorough preparation, saying the current stalemate calls for high-level dialogue, while spokesman Dmitry Peskov dismissed widespread media speculation about the talks. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called U.S. President Donald Trump's proposal for a ceasefire along the current front lines a good compromise. Speaking in Oslo, he expressed skepticism, however, over whether Russian President Vladimir Putin would agree to such a plan to end the ongoing conflict. Moving on to a different matter now. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy made history as the first French and European head of state to be imprisoned. He spent his first night behind bars following his conviction for criminal conspiracy over Libyan financing of his presidential campaign. Nabil Khazini reports now.
An image probably very few could have imagined. Nicolas Sarkozy, a former president of France, is now behind bars. This marks a dramatic fall for a man once seen as the embodiment of power, a leader who dominated French politics for over 15 years. Sarkozy promised a flawless republic, but his actions led to something very different. Since winning the presidency in 2007, he has faced a series of scandals and controversies that have left his image in tatters. From the beginning, Sarkozy blurred the lines between his public and private life. Expensive vacations on a billionaire's yacht, dinners with powerful figures, and close ties to businessmen. His connections to money and media broke the traditional rules of presidential conduct. In office, he took a tough stance on immigration, security, and national identity, creating deep divisions and fueling the rise of the far right. But it's the legal battles that have taken the biggest toll, from illegal campaign funding in the Big Million scandal to wiretapping and corruption charges. The most serious scandal of all remains the Gaddafi affair, allegations that he took millions from the Libyan regime to fund his 2007 election campaign. A new viral video has further shaken his supporters, and inside the prison, extra security measures have been put in place, with officers on constant watch. This is a man now under strict surveillance as his fall from power continues. From his rise to the presidency to his legal troubles, Nicolas Sarkozy's story is one of ambition, controversy, and a dramatic downfall.
And that brings us to the end of our news program for tonight. For more updates, you can always check our social media platforms. I'm Islam Said signing off. Do take care.